sad, right? That we have to be educated about it. It's almost like I wish we already live in a world where this is the normal.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be educated. You don't need to get used to it. It doesn't have to be a process.
It really has to start with understanding all of that. And that's what we're trying to do, is just really to understand, no, across
Just
the spectrum.
opening up.
Yeah.
Right? Opening up your mind and trying to be a little bit more welcoming to the thought. And even if you don't understand now, you may be uncomfortable or it's not your norm. Episode today.
It's a very
Pang-ilan
different
na ba?
episode. 7.
Makulay
Seven.
tayo today.
Yes.
Yes.
Bakit tayo makulay?
Because it's Pride Month.
Yes,
Pride Month na
that's
po.
correct.
Oo, at trivia, nung pinag-uusapan namin yung color,
Yes.
syempre sabi nila, ay dapat tayo, colors of the rainbow. Tapos naisip ko, ay pink ako. Eh, nalimutan ko na nga palang pink sa Roy G.
Opo, hindi po
Kaya
yun
pala
primary
ako.
color. Yes.
Sorry.
Very
So what are we doing today? How
Okay.
are we gonna talk about this?
So today
Today
is very different, and it's important because we are honoring the Pride community by listening to real stories that fuel what Pride symbolizes. So it's really, we're gonna hear about perspectives and the experiences of our Pride community friends. Yan
I
ang
think
ating
it's important to point out, hindi tayo nagmamarunong dito. Kaya
Oo.
that's the reason why. I
Correct.
think each of us would have experiences in terms of, interacting, having
Yes.
relationships with them, right? At work and outside of work.
Yeah.
But it's important to get their real experiences.
That's true. First hand. Kasi
First
tayo, we are
hand,
we are just witnesses to
Yes.
their journey, their experience, pero we can't speak for them. So, what we thought about doing today is 4 friends.
4 of our friends,
Yeah.
yes. We sent them a couple of questions each on the things that we're curious about, and we asked them to send in their responses through videos. So that's what we're going to do. We will watch them with you, and then we're going to process them and comment and
Yeah.
see what we learn from each of these answers. So that is what we will do today.
Okay,
On
exciting.
that note,
Who's gonna go first?
we have to open the
Buksan
ano,
natin to,
buksan natin ang
We're
mahiwaga.
gonna open this.
Yes. While we're opening it, here we go.
Our
Wala nang
first
time.
one.
So,
Okay.
I'll introduce
Yes,
the
go
first
ahead.
speaker.
Okay.
Although I think she introduces herself as well. But our first speaker is Kim Portera. Kim Portera is one of our leaders in Concentrics, and she's actually part of my team
Yeah.
in Concentrics and Shared Services. So Kim is going to share with us her perspective. And we're going to start with, I think the questions we sent to Kim are really more self-reflective about
Okay.
Yeah.
more interior looking, no, inward looking. So yan ang ating first
Okay.
contributor.
Play
Let's
natin
go.
siya.
That's a very wonderful question. But yeah, before anything else, I'd like to just quickly introduce myself. I'm Kim Portera. I'm a training and quality manager by profession, but I am a beauty queen by passion. So outside of training and quality, I love joining beauty pageants.
Beauty queen
and
ito?
I am your reigning Queen of Quezon City, District 1, 2024. That's just a trivia, but yeah, that's a hard question. I think the first time I realized being myself might come with a cost was back in high school, really. You know, yung parang you remember you're sitting in a cafeteria and you're with your friends, and then parang someone just made a joke about being gay or acting a gay. Of course, right? Lahat kayo tatawa, everyone will laugh about it, but that moment I felt like it's a sudden shift. Like, if I showed too much of myself about who I really was, parang natakot ako because I might become the center of jokes, attraction, punchline, and all. But, that moment also stuck with me because it wasn't just about the joke, right? It was about realizing being authentic could mean losing that easy acceptance I had before. That's back in high school. But as I age, as I grow up,
Alam mo, yung sinabi niya kasi is yung in the middle of her being with friends and then they joked
Yeah.
about it, and she laughs with them, right?
Yeah.
We experienced that also for our friends. Diba? Na parang it felt awkward and you can feel that they are feeling
Yeah.
awkward, diba?
Yeah. Because her question was, when did you first realize that being yourself would come at a cost?
Yeah,
Yes,
costed
that was the question
something.
that she was answering. Oo. And that's what she said nga, now when somebody made a joke.
Yeah.
And she felt like, okay, I don't want to be the brunt of a joke next time.
Correct. Diba? I think that's a very tough situation to be in. Siyempre, ayaw mo pagtawanan ka.
Yeah.
Diba? Naturally. And all of these friends of yours, or at least, at that particular moment in time, you think they're your friends.
Yep.
Tapos nakita mo yung reaction nila na, okay, so they were laughing about being gay. And I can imagine how fearful she must have felt. Na parang,
For sure.
ano ba, lalabas ko ba yung tunay kong pagkatao dito? Baka ako yung pagtawanan. To be fearful about who you are, obviously, I don't know if we ever, none of us had ever gone through that. I just think that it's a tough situation to be in.
And she was saying this was in high school. So
High
it was in high school, and she's having to calculate in her mind, should
Yeah.
I be myself around these people? And to have to do that young, we all have kids in high school, diba?
Yeah.
Parang it's heartbreaking. So the fear that was very
And the exact
apparent.
opposite of just be yourself. Di ba? Yun
Yeah.
lagi mong maririnig. Just be yourself. Everybody will love you if you be yourself. But clearly, in her kwento, it's the exact opposite.
Although, okay, I have a slightly different view because if we're sitting as a recipient, like we're one of the friends, it could be that you're not necessarily laughing at
Her.
her
Or,
being gay.
or I
Right?
think
Kasi,
they don't know yet.
yes.
Diba?
Oo. Or, kasi for example, ako, I'm conscious, especially with my child.
Yeah.
They think he's a man. I stiffen up and I ask him, how do you feel about that? Kaya nagulat ako when she said, it's good, Mom. I'm happy. It doesn't matter to me. If they think I'm a man or the same, it doesn't matter to me.
That's when I started opening up more because I noticed some friends pulled away. The people I thought would always be there suddenly kept their distance. And that hurts. No? Masakit siya sa totoong buhay, to be honest. And it made me wonder if being myself was worth the risk because nawala yung mga taong malapit sa akin eh. The moment I started to come out na, hey, I'm a trans woman, I'm a transgender woman, that's also at the same time that they're starting to step away. But over time, I found new people, friends who didn't just tolerate me, but also celebrate me. And that's when I understood that, oo nga no, being yourself can come with a cost, but also brings you closer to the kind of love and community that's real and lasting. And that's why very important sa akin yung high school date kasi that's also the
I mean, I think that's a beautiful part of her experience. No,
Yeah.
she was able to find a community, as she said. But I guess the question I have is, how early do we get taught to think about things like that, like belonging, like even as
Any
kids?
kid, diba?
Yes.
Usually, I think, based on experience, simula pagkabata mo, naghahanap ka na ng kalaro. Diba?
Right.
And even with just the playmates, you already have like, ayaw nila ako isali.
Yeah.
But I think that becomes intensified
Yep.
when we hit adolescence.
Correct.
Diba? Na parang yun na, naghahanap ka na ng clique mo, ng grupo mo, people who are like-minded, who
Yep.
likes the same things as you, watches the same things, or
Yes.
listens to the same kind of music. And that's just typical characteristics. Diba?
Correct.
So I can only imagine if it's like, we're now talking about who
Yeah.
you are and what you prefer, who you want to be, etc.
Yeah.
It's so hard though, right? Like, it's so beautiful what she said.
Yeah.
She found people who not only
Celebrate.
tolerated her, but celebrated.
Celebrated
Yeah.
her. Yeah.
But at what stage do you find those? Kasi, syempre, sometimes kids are kids, right? And then,
Yes.
as they grow, they become enlightened. And so, when does that become a conversation? It's sad, no? Because it has to be a conversation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we don't like to admit it, but it's true. And
Yeah.
schools don't like to admit it. Parents don't like to admit it, but
Oo.
it's part of the realities of kids and, of course, queer people.
Absolutely.
As well. Okay, let's go.
Okay, next.
high school date kasi that's also the time that I attended my first Pride March. And it feels so powerful. It's a reminder that while authenticity can be scary, nakakatakot siya, right? Nakakatakot maging authentic kasi people will judge you. It's also a path to freedom. Like, we honor the struggle, but we also celebrate the joy of living openly. And honestly, right now, the connections I gain by being true to myself, parang mas worth it pa siya than the ones I lose. Agree.
Ayun.
That's true.
Yes. It must have hurt to lose people
Along
in the
way.
process,
Yeah.
but and we can only imagine for someone so young who's dealing with more than just peer
Yeah.
pressure and acceptance. It's about identity as well for Kim.
Yeah.
So, but it's great na eventually she found the right.
The meaning of those relationships that she gained, right, were much, much more. And that's what she said in her video, which I think is a very beautiful thing. As you mature, you
Yeah.
gravitate towards the right people that actually, her words, not mine, celebrated who she is, which I
Right.
think is more meaningful than just keeping a lot of friends around. Tapos, they don't necessarily understand. And it's not entirely their fault, right?
Yep.
Pero ganun lang talaga eh. As you mature in life, as you navigate, you find friends who will celebrate, you will outgrow some of it.
Yeah.
But she was very young. Diba? High school. Bata pa yun.
Yeah.
Bata
yeah.
pa.
Baka for them or for her, it comes earlier. When
pwede.
you realize that there are friends who will stay in.
Or in her case, kasi some other people naman, they realize or they learn
That's
that
true.
their preference is different. Diba? Later
Later
on
in life.
life.
Yeah.
That's
So,
true.
interesting din yun. Nakip kaya nila yung dati nilang friends?
Yeah.
O hindi?
Ano, oo, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Next, sinong next?
Okay, that's Kim.
That's
right?
Kim.
Interesting yung kay Kim, ha?
Yes.
Medyo mahirap yung mga tinanong mo sa kanya. Makabagbag damdamin.
Yes.
Oo,
Talagang
talagang
mag-reflect.
High school
Yeah.
ito.
Oo.
Yeah.
Kasi when did she first Yun ang
Oo.
yung mga first niya. So, yes, let's move into our next presenter or contributor is Sandy, actually.
Si Sandy.
Sandy. Our questions for Sandy.
What questions did we send her?
Okay. For Sandy, it was moving from a personal perspective now into like the environment and the world around
okay,
her
okay.
moving out. No, the first question we asked her was, what do straight people get praised for that queer people still get punished for? And then the second one was, what is the most violent thing people can do without ever touching you?
Oh, okay. Interesting. So let's hear Sandy.
Sige.
Hi, my name is Sandy. I'm a friend of Tonette. We've known each other since the early 90s from college.
I love her.
Yes.
I'm a fan.
Anyway, if this
I'm
is
a fan of
irrelevant.
hers on social media.
Anyway, Tonette asked me to think about this question. And I have. What do straight people do that they're rewarded for? And when queer folk do it, they're punished for it. Let's start with the simplest, the most basic, PDA. I'm not talking about scandalous PDA. I'm just talking about your very basic act of holding hands. HHWW, holding hands while walking. So when straight people do it, when straight couples do it, they're socially rewarded for that. Diba? Oh, ang sweet nila, ang cute naman nila. Oh, tignan mo, ang cute oh. Sus, magka-holding hands pa. Things like that. But when queer folk do it, we get punished for it. We get stared at. They make it a point to show us that they're staring at us. They make it a point to show us that they're judging us harshly. In some places, you get a hate crime for it. There are still places that exist where queer folk cannot hold hands because they'll be beaten up to sometimes unalive. Okay. The next thing is casually talking about your relationship. Like you're in the office, you're in the pantry. Straight people do it all the time. My husband this, my wife this, my wife and I went had a staycation over the weekend. Random stuff, not, when you're friendly with someone, like just very obviously, like in the workplace, in the pantry, And then somebody will talk about, oh, my boyfriend of 6 years, magta-travel kami next month, ganyan. Straight people do it all the time. Random stuff. But when queer people do it, there's always this moment, no matter that it's a microsecond, but there's always this moment of awkward silence, of shock, like somehow you said something horrific, like whereas straight people, oh, and we also get I hate this. What you do in the bedroom is not my business. That is such an ignorant statement. Because you're in a relationship, it's not just about what you do in the bedroom. It's not all about sexual activities. It's your entire life. You've created an entire life with your life partner, right? Like, would you tell your straight friend if your straight friend goes, oh, my boyfriend and I are going away for the weekend. What you do in the bedroom is none of my business. Like, you would never think to tell that to straight people, but queer people get it all the time. We cannot just casually unless you're with good friends, right? But let's say in an office setting where you're just friendly with these people, you're in the pantry. Meron pa rin no matter nga, I said like it's a nanosecond, it's a microsecond, there's always that stunned silence. It's awkward, they're shocked. They don't know what to do, they don't know how to act. So that's the second thing. The third thing, and I think this is the most important and the most heinous, is participating in the very conventional, very traditional institution of marriage and family, right? When straight people do it, in fact, straight people are encouraged to do it, right? Okay lang kayo pakasal na ako, mag-baby na kayo, kaya kayo magbe-baby. But when queer people want to do it, we are judged so harshly for it. We get told things like, gusto niya talaga special rights eh. What is special about wanting the same rights for me that you have?
She gave some very interesting answers. I think she mentions punishment that people don't necessarily think of as punishment because there's no visible damage to a person, no bruise, right?
Yeah.
But punishment in the form of making it a point to stare at them. I mean, the physical punishment that she brings up is very real, no? But the social punishment, I think, is probably something that people overlook. Now you're already punishing someone by doing that. Yeah, and she brings up some very pointed references, no?
It is true though that these things happen quite often.
Yeah.
And I think Tonichi was talking about yung transition not just for the person themselves, right?
Yeah.
The queer person or the queer couple, but also for the people around them. Baka yung iba, and I'm just, speculating, it could also be that they're just not used to it.
Yeah.
Diba? Hindi lang sila sanay. And probably they're unintentionally staring
Yeah.
or unintentionally parang, alam mo yan, hindi sila exposed to that kind of discussion, etc. But I will not deny what Sandy said. There are people who will make it a point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Diba na, you know how growing up we were told na, oh, it's rude to stare
stare.
at people, diba? Or it's not polite to look at them from head to foot, diba?
Yeah.
Ganyan. May mga tao who does that unintentionally. Parang nagulat ka. Tapos napatitig ka, ganyan. Pero meron din that that the way they're
Purposely.
looking at you
Yeah.
is judging
Yes.
or is passing on judgment. Diba? So I think that's what she's referring on this video. And it is quite common, unfortunately. And sometimes, siguro, in our past lives, we would have probably done the same. Na parang, nung simula pa lang, di ba, na na-expose tayo sa kwento or sa experiences of our LGBTQ friends or allies, it's not about siguro the shock of it, kasi lalo na our generation, di tayo naman ganun ka-open nung generation natin eh. Today, it's different. So, I would assume that because people are much more exposed, na medyo lessen, na sana.
Yeah.
Sana.
Sana.
But I couldn't say for sure.
Actually, when I received, so I know Sandy from college. And she's one of the funniest, strongest, bravest women I know. Kaya talaga siya yung naisip
She's so
ko.
funny.
She is super
She's
funny. Ano pa yan? Video pa lang yan.
Subdued
Pagkasama
pa yan.
niyo, pagkasama niyo siya, ibang levels siya.
I'm sure.
But when I received her video and I watched it, I sent her a message saying, I feel so ignorant. I didn't realize that it still happens.
Yeah.
You know, because my fear for my daughter was that she would
She
get
will
those
experience
kinds
it.
of stares, right? So akala ko, because it's a different generation, baka hindi na ganyan ngayon. Alam ko dati,
Oo,
ganyan.
oo.
Pero everybody talks about it.
Yeah.
We are so exposed to it. Kaya nung sinabi ni Sandy yan sa akin, I sent her a message saying, I feel so ignorant na talagang nangyayari pa siya.
Hanggang ngayon.
Hanggang ngayon. In fact, I come from an exclusive girls' school, right? May tinanong din ako na, nangyayari ba talaga to? Yes. So, it came as a shock, but, you know, I guess we don't talk about it often
Yeah.
enough, right?
Yeah.
And maybe that's how we should be celebrating.
That's
Maybe
true.
that's the learning, right?
Oo.
Right? If you can get married, then so can I. The straight people are always rewarded, encouraged na, you know,
Yeah.
get married, settle down, start a family, na mag-baby na kayo. Ay, hindi na bale na hindi pa kayo successful sa career nyo. Pag dumating na yung baby, it will all work out. Di ba? Laging ganyan yung sinasabi. Di ba? Mag-anak na kayo, ibibigay ng Diyos yan. Ganyan lagi. But for queer folk, my God, oh, the horror. Oh, the how dare you, the audacity for us to want to be in a marriage, to participate in marriage. Like for me, we are 2 months shy of 29 years, my partner Ida and I, almost 30 years. If this is not a marriage, I don't know what is. It's just not on paper, right? When we adopted our son, we were 16 years into the relationship. That's a long time. That's a lifetime. And still, one person had the gall to tell us, ayan, akala nyo madali, no? Yan, kasi sinasabak nyo. Like, what? What? 16 years in. Akala namin madali. Like, did we accidentally get pregnant the way straight people do? Anyway, I'm ranting. But yeah, we get judged for the very things that straight people are encouraged to do, are rewarded for. And that's it. I'm not ranting. I'm happy.
She is so.
Bye.
Yeah, some of the violent things are subtle. No,
Yeah.
but they obviously feel violent to the receiving party. But yeah, some of those things she mentioned, you don't even realize is very harmful, and that's just how society has been.
That's true.
So
And you'd think na, to Tonichi's point, right? That time has moved on.
Yeah.
People have evolved, exposure, diba? Understanding more, or watching, listening to more stories of their experiences, even the ones that are medyo extreme na, yung mga hate crimes,
Yeah.
etc., right? We watch them often and we think na, sana magbago yung mundo, and you know, we be a little bit kinder to them and these
Yeah.
things. But those are parang taking it to the extreme, but the everyday stuff, like what she was talking about, just the stares.
Yeah.
Just the,
yeah,
hindi ako magsasalita, pero kitang-kita mo sa facial expression ko na, you know, I frown upon what you're talking about. I can just imagine how that feels on a daily basis, diba? Medyo, that's something that I've never experienced, obviously, but, you know, clearly she's talking about how difficult that is, especially with people you think you're friendly with.
Yeah. I think, lalo na yung sa special, yung people around them think that they're asking for special treatment. Like, they're really not. It's the same rights that should be accorded to them, diba? That we are already enjoying. I've known Sandy and Ida, both of them together.
From school.
From school.
They were
From
together
school.
from
Oo, they were together from school. And even as I was going into corporate, it was not new to me. Parang, because for us, it was celebrated.
Yeah.
Together. We were together and all that. And it's not just them. We had other friends also. So it still shocks me. And it's sad, right? That we have to be educated about it. It's almost like I wish we already live in a world where this is the normal.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be educated. You don't need to get used to it. It doesn't have to be a process, diba? Pero I think part of it is the learning, right?
but then people on the other side will say there's stuff we don't understand about why they feel that way,
Yeah.
right? That they will also say there's a reason we believe they should not be
Right.
given the sacrament.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's just so many angles
Yeah.
to it. And I think it really has to start with understanding all of that. And that's what we're trying to do, is just really to understand, no, across
Just
the spectrum.
opening up,
Yeah.
right? Opening up your mind and trying to be a little bit more welcoming to the thought. And even if you don't understand now, you may be uncomfortable, right? Or it's not your norm.
Nakakatawa yan si Sandy Because they have a show, Sandy the show.
Oh.
Yes. At saka
Yeah.
ano siya?
Nakita ko siya sa
At saka,
TikTok,
yeah,
diba?
at saka, yes, TikTok. At saka, parating doktor or lawyer yan sa mga teleserye.
Talaga.
Tawang-tawa
Hi,
ako sa
Sandy.
kanya sa TikTok. As in, nakasave yung mga videos niya sa ano. Ganun ako ka-fan. Oo. So, she's so fun. Okay, our next contributor is JJ.
JJ.
Sige, Jeffrey Johnson. Why don't you
One of
introduce
the nicest
Jeffrey?
people.
Yeah, one of the nicest people. He used to be a chief people officer
Yes.
for one of the largest BPOs in the country. We used to work together, and I loved working with Jeffrey.
Yes.
He is well loved in the industry, by the way.
And
Very much so. Very nice
Yes.
guy.
Jeffrey's questions focused more on the systems now.
Yeah.
So now we're in the environment and now the systems around us. Particularly, we asked, in work, school, or public spaces, what has visibility cost him? And what does real inclusion look like when it is not just for show? These are tough questions, no? In the
Go,
work
Jeffrey,
environment.
go.
Let's
see.
go.
Let's play
JJ.
Hi, I'm Jeffrey Johnson. People call me JJ. I'm an executive career coach and a former chief people officer. In work, school, or public places, what has visibility cost me? That's such a great question because I think about it and I wonder, oftentimes I've tried to look at the world in a pretty optimistic view. I've had so many amazing experiences with the people I love and the people I work with. So oftentimes I haven't really thought so much about what visibility has cost me. But it did get me wondering what happens behind closed doors. What are the opportunities, the perceptions that maybe I never even knew about that were out there that the visibility may have limited some of those opportunities? And I try to think about that and wonder, in the Philippines or in other countries as well, there's very little legal protections for people of the LGBT community, especially nationwide protections. And you think about that and you wonder, is that visibility causing some of that lack of protection that we need under the law? And that visibility obviously has its upsides and downsides. But another thing I thought about was the unintended weight that's laid on people who choose to be open and who choose to live a life that's out and proud. And sometimes it's very unintentional to represent the community, but it ends up happening, whether you like it or not. And that could sometimes make it feel a little bit heavy. And sometimes you're not really sure if that's what you asked for. Some people just want to be themselves, and themselves may not necessarily be some banner of the community. So that may also be a hidden cost of being open and visible has on people who decide to do that. But living a life of peace and honesty, at the end of the day, even though there may be some downsides, at the end of the day, it is the thing that propels us all forward, and it provides so much happiness and fulfillment in your life. And it's obviously something that I've chosen to do, and I know that so many other people have chosen to do as well.
That's really beautiful how he ended that. I think he started with the weight that unintentionally comes with being yourself, when the yourself, the who you are, is somebody that people prefer to minimize or edit. No? And he owns it, and he says in the end, I've chosen to live visibly. And I think that's really brave, especially for us in these systems, in who are leaders, who have a corporate image to uphold. So I think JJ is a great example of somebody who does not want self-erasure and chooses to bear the cost.
Yeah.
And not everybody has that courage. Yeah,
That's
so-
true. It's interesting to me how he talks about, there are certain things afforded to non-members of the LGBTQ, the straight people, versus the ones that they don't have, right? The protection he spoke about. Those are facts, right?
Yeah.
The laws and the regulations
Yes.
that we have, let alone the societal things. We're now talking about, like, of course, they can't get married in the Philippines. They can't. I'm not sure if they can, how easy or if it's even possible to like legally adopt, right? And I think Sandy was talking
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
That is a fact, especially in a very religious country or a Catholic country like the Philippines. And that's why I appreciate, where possible, whether it's institutions, workplaces, or any other establishments that try their best within whatever laws or boundaries can be afforded to be welcoming and accommodating, right? To both. You know, gender neutral restrooms. Dati wala yan, di yan uso. Same-sex partners on HMOs,
Yes.
etc. Dati hindi yun pwede, etc. So, things like that. And I know those are not very big yet. And I hope that there will come a time that bigger policies, bigger regulations will be afforded to both members, non-members. But small steps.
Yeah.
Small steps. And I think what stood out for me in Jeffrey's video is that courage, where he ended with,
Yes.
you know, it's gonna cost you a lot. I remember telling Larah in one of our rides na the members of the LGBTQ, it's not an easy life, diba? Yung to start off na you have to gain approval
Yeah.
for who you are, just being yourself, it's already a battle. Diba?
Yes.
Kasi kailangan yun eh. I mean, you have to belong somewhere. Being human, isa yun sa basic needs, right? That's one of the most basic needs that any person, any human being has to have in their life. So to fight for that approval every day and just being yourself will cost you something, will really take a lot of courage, especially in systems.
In the corporate world.
Yeah.
100%.
Systems.
Because it's like, in the corporate world, we say you can be visible, but make yourself digestible and palatable.
That's
you know, be
true.
yourself,
Yeah.
but be tolerable. You know, I mean, it's in corporate and systems. Are we different? Is the industry, though, a little bit more, the industry, the BPO industry?
I think we are.
I
Are
think
we
we
a little
are.
bit more?
I strongly believe
Yes.
that we
Oo.
are.
Through
And
the
I
many years, diba?
Yes, and I'm glad we're pivoting to that kasi I think we were one of the first industries who came out to support talaga.
Yes, to embrace them.
To embrace and then to support. But JJ mentioned something that, again, is new to me. Yung unintended weight, right? And he's right, you know. For me, I attend a lot of events. I always look for speakers. And so when somebody from their community stands out, I automatically want to be able to get that person as a speaker. So, yung sinasabi ni JJ na biglang banner, do they have to be
Biglang
like a symbol,
representative.
kailangan representative. Paano if they just want to be themselves and they
That's
don't
true.
need to be a representative of anything?
Yeah.
But then in our quest to really put that message out
Out there.
also,
Yeah.
we also need people who will advocate for
That's true.
that and speak about it because we can't be the ones
Yeah.
speaking about it, right? So I totally feel that yung oo nga naman unintended weight siya.
Yeah. So especially for folks like him, diba, who has a much stronger voice because of the position.
Yeah.
Hindi man sinasadya.
Yes.
Diba, right? It wasn't intended to be that way from the get-go, but he took it up.
Yep.
Because
Yeah.
there are very little advocates.
Yes.
Yes.
Pero now, I think there are more,
More, yeah.
coming out. But this industry, I do agree, is much more welcoming than any of the traditional ones.
Mabuhay ang BPO industry sa Pilipinas.
Okay.
What does real inclusion look like when it's not just for show? What a great question, because inclusion for me, when it's not just for show, is what happens after Pride Month. So Pride Month is so amazing. The feeling is great. People are out celebrating. Allies, companies, organizations, even the government help provide their support for the LGBT community. And it feels amazing. But for me, it's the rubber really meets the road when it's not June. When we see laws and we see policies, we see protections and opportunity. And those things don't just happen in June. They happen in August. They happen in January. They happen in March. And so when we're actually delivering for the LGBT community, I look for the hard and fast rules that come out of that and the way that people act, even outside of Pride Month. So this goes back to making an environment where people feel they can bring their full selves to every group, to people at work, to family groups, to friends. And an LGBT person is a person above all. And so they don't need to be placed in a box of other. They are just a person, and they contribute so many amazing things to society. And when we, outside of Pride Month, create environments where LGBT people are championed as just a normal person who is contributing amazing things, that helps create an environment where I think that everyone can thrive. And that everyday language and behavior is really important. People pick up on it. People will know whether they're being truly accepted, and that healthy culture where people can truly thrive doesn't only impact the LGBT community, it impacts every community. And for me, that's an exciting opportunity for us to set that culture and let that culture inculcate all throughout our communities.
He has such a great energy about him. He's so pleasant, and when
Yeah.
you listen to him, he's
He's happy all the time.
Yes, and it's great. Like his face is so maaliwalas,
Very
no?
pleasant.
So
I've
pleasant.
met him several times. He's very pleasant and
Yeah.
very easy to talk to.
Yeah, and he speaks about how they don't have to be boxed as other. They don't have to be a symbolic representation. They are just, above all, people. And I think that real inclusion, whether it pertains to queer folk or any other group, is real inclusion is when you are championed even when you're not in the room,
Yeah.
even when you're not present, you're not around, you are still championed and defended when there's a need to defend you. And I think he makes that point. So I love that answer.
I think
JJ,
the
you're awesome.
non-performative piece for me, my own definition of that is Jeffrey talks about June Pride Month, right? You walk with the Pride March, etc. May dala kang banner and all of that. But really, on a day-to-day basis, some people don't even practice that. Sandy's point: people stare at you, people judge you harshly just by looking at them. To me, it's more. It shouldn't even be a point of conversation.
Yes.
Right? Like, for example, at work, when we talk about, performance, when we talk about a particular assignment that's going to be like front and center, it's a high stake project. It would be the biggest, most horrible thing to say, wag na siya kasi LGBT siya eh. Right? To me, that's a very ideal setup where we will never even talk about, is she a woman?
Yeah.
Is she a man? Is she
Yes.
or is he a man? Sorry. Or diba, LGBT ba to? That shouldn't even be a point of conversation. But sadly, it still happens today, right? Like to your point, kapag kailangan ng speakers and all of that, minsan you think about, okay, sino na naman? And unfortunately, some of the times, they're passed on.
Yeah.
The opportunities pass them by just because they are who they are. So, that's sad.
Okay.
Bakit kang umingiti sa isang audience natin?
Yes. Okay. Now we'll move to Gracie. Gracie is also a leader in the industry and recently awarded one of the Sheroes.
Yes.
What does being more honest about who you are made possible in your life?
Yeah. When people ask me about my coming out story, the answer is always, I don't have a coming out story. Obviously, it was a very difficult situation with my family, because they had an idea, clearly, and they would talk me out of being who I am. And honestly, like at the time, I didn't care. I was so sure about how I wanted to be. I was very happy with who I am. And so, like I said, didn't care. I acted as I am. I dressed as I am. I talked as I am. And all of these things happened back in high school, right? 20, 25 years ago. Obviously, it's still a very difficult conversation these days, but it was a lot more difficult at the time. And
High school
the thought
ulit.
process was you have to prove yourself against all odds, right?
I mean, that's pretty heavy for anyone.
Yeah, I was talking about it kanina.
yeah.
Na, diba? Gracie spoke about having to prove yourself. Yun yung sinasabi ko na parang ang hirap nun. Just gaining approval for who you are. Just existing. Wala ka pang ibang pinapatunayan na trabaho or performance. Just who you are. You
Yeah.
just want to be yourself.
Yeah.
I'm glad she did mention na she didn't care.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
So that was very early on. And I'm glad that early on, she decided na I won't care what you guys think because ako, I experienced my family for my child who thought she would get over it. Parang proseso siya. And I had to tell my family na hindi siya proseso. Siya na yun. Kasi yung sinaunang panahon na
Yeah.
iniisip mo, she will get, it's a phase.
Oo,
Di phase.
she'll get
Ito na
over
yun.
it.
Yeah, she'll get
Oo.
over it. Walang ganun. Diba? Yun na siya. Yan na yun. Tanggapin nyo na. Diba?
May mas malala pa nga, di ba yung iba? Gagaling din yan.
Oo.
Naalala ko,
Grabe
mga
naman yung
ano.
mga kalumaang
Oo,
ano.
ang pag-iisip.
Diba?
Diba,
Sinaunang
gagaling din
panahon
yan.
to.
O kaya dalhin mo sa simbahan.
Diba?
Oo, ganun.
Oo,
Totoo, diba? In the
nakakaloka.
olden times.
But what becomes possible when you have a mindset like Gracie is everything. Look how, when she said, I just didn't care, I just
Yeah.
didn't
I'll
care.
own it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And yeah, just like JJ, diba? Parang you just opened a whole world if you choose to just own it. So
I just love the courage that she has, especially at that age.
Yeah.
Right? Imagine high school.
Oo.
Iba
Yeah.
pag medyo matured ka na medyo may tapang ka na. Pero at that age, to just say, to hell with it. I'll become whoever I want to become. And look at her now.
yeah, and that to me is probably the toughest thing listening to the stories is realizing that young you have to think about self-editing and self-managing and self-erasing. It's so difficult enough to be young, you know,
Against all
and
odds.
and then have all those other things to deal with. So let's listen.
So to answer your question, what is being more honest about who I am made possible in my life? I think ultimately it made me aspire more. It made me do more. And it made me want to be more than what society expected of me, right? Because I knew from an early age that the impact I will leave will be measured against my sexuality. That's just always going to happen. And so I decided that, you know what? I need to do things beyond my gender identity and expression that will give more meaning to my life, you know? While obviously how I am is a very big part of who I am, and it'll probably be what most people will notice first about me, I challenged myself that this isn't going to be the most interesting thing about me, right? There's going to be so much more, a lot more fascinating things, all my work, my relationships, all my talents, right? While I'm incredibly proud of who I am, I just know I'm gonna do more than whatever idea people have about me.
What would you say to someone who knows being themselves may cost them something?
I fundamentally believe that anything of value has a cost, right?
So I love that when she said, this isn't gonna be the most interesting thing about me.
Yeah.
Na hindi ako ikakahon nito kung ano man, di ba, ang inisip ng tao. So,
But that's very
It's
true.
very-
A lot of the LGBTQ folks that I know are high achievers.
Yes.
They really excel in the field that they've chosen. Whether that's creatives, corporate, academe. Kasi nga, I think that's coming from, and you know, a few of my bestest friends in the world are LGBTQ folks. They've taught me one thing, na bata pa sila, people are already measuring na, kasi dahil bakla ka o tomboy ka, ganito lang ang mararating
Yeah.
mo. And that's why that drove them. These are their personal stories and experiences. That drove them to think na, I will be more, much more. At ipapakita ko sa'yo that who I am is not a hindrance to who I will be and I can become. And I will be somebody celebrated. And syempre, that's the inspiring part of it. I'm sure, you know, not everybody had that successful experience or that kind of journey in the long run. But most of them very early on, ganun na yung I guess it planted.
Yeah.
Diba? How they were treated become something na inspirational or driven. They planted it in their minds that I will become somebody. And I love how she actually achieved that.
Beyond her sexuality. She said she wants to be celebrated beyond her sexuality and her gender identity. Ang galing kasi even like Gracie, very early on then, diba? That was a difficult journey, but again, she owned it and look at her now, diba?
Do you want to be successful in your career? Well, the cost is you have to be intentional about who you surround yourself with. You have to continuously upskill, right? You want to be healthier? Well, the cost is you have to go to the gym. You have to watch your diet and exercise, right? Ultimately, like I said, anything of value has a cost. So ask yourself, how do you want to live your life? Do you want to express yourself naturally, be in, your happy state? Then while that may have a cost, the return is always going to be worth it. There's Atomic Habits is one of my most favorite books ever, written by James Clear. And something he said there was, every choice you make is a vote for the kind of person you wish to become. And I just live by that, the acceptance of the cost to live our lives the way we are, to me, is always worth it. If what that means is you live your life the way you want to be.
I like how Gracie is so sure of who she is, and sounds like she's been in that mindset for quite some time. And the labor of making others around you feel comfortable enough to accept you must be very taxing. And again, at a young age, she's had to deal with it. And yet you watch her and she's so self-assured.
Yeah.
And it's great to see somebody who's got that gravitas.
What struck me the most was her comment on, if that's the cost of being happy,
Yes.
diba, she'll
be it,
gladly
yeah.
bear it, right? And I think that comes from a place of deep courage,
Yes.
not just for the LGBTQ folks, probably more for them, but for everyone. Everybody has that certain price to pay, so to speak, if you want to live a happy life. That freedom to be who you are, become, or do things that you want to do. And she's gladly embracing that. Yun nga yung sinasabi na, tanggapin mo ng maaga,
Yeah.
and then you can actually, start your journey towards that. And I'm glad that she's actually doing it. She's clearly happy with the person she's become.
And so much wisdom to that, right? When she said that everything of value has a cost to it. And that's true that for everything. For anything. Diba? Pero she, like you said, she owned it. And then she really focused on what she wanted to become. That's it. Regardless of sexuality, gender. She just focused on what she wanted to become. So, galing.
Okay, is that the last of
Yes.
her? Oh, okay. So that's it. Those are our 4 contributors who have very openly shared their perspectives, their experiences, and we're so grateful. Grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim and JJ and
Gracie
Gracie
and
and
Sandy
Sandy.
for sharing your experiences with us.
Yes. This is really an episode that is focused on the cost of
Yeah.
becoming yourself, the cost of permission. This actually kicks off our cost arc, for the podcast because our brilliant Declutter team actually gave us a little bit of an arc. And so this is a kickoff of understanding the cost of many things in our lives. And this was the first one. I thought that we got some really great perspectives.
Absolutely. I think for me, just summarizing all of the 4, right? The 4 stories. To me, all those 4 talks about stories of courage.
Yeah.
Iba yung tapang nun. Na not just from the big things, right? Like the becoming who you want to be, the living the life that you want to live in the future, becoming somebody so that you don't get looked down upon, to the daily, yung simple day-to-day life that they have to battle with, diba? Stories of Sandy, stories of JJ that, some people would only join them in pride marches, but when it comes down to August, July, or whatever month, which basically talks about the other day-to-day stuff, it's not there.
Yeah.
So to me, all those 4 stories resonated and just cemented what I believed in ever since we started talking about putting this episode together, which is really, it takes a lot of courage. And I salute them for having that courage. And I do hope that all of those who are considering to come out or even considering to really be true to themselves, let alone forget about coming out to other people, you being true to yourself, accepting who you are. I hope that you all find that courage to move forward with it.
Agree.
May last
Parang ang
sentence.
tahimik kasi natin ngayon.
Or I think because we're reflective.
Yeah,
about,
it's very reflective. So parang it's enlightening, diba? Na it is also a learning process. As we were watching them, as we were talking about it, there are so many things that I also didn't realize is still happening.
Correct. And that's why I think it's important that we actually invited them. Kasi it's so hard to talk about these things na tayo-tayo lang. I mean, those are not first-hand experiences clearly. So I'm glad we did this episode.
May closing kasi dapat tayo to complete the sentence. The cost of becoming visible or the cost of becoming yourself is blank. What is that? I mean, I think we heard a lot of answers from our contributors.
Yes.
I think the cost of becoming visible is losing people that you thought were
Was gonna stick around.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or managing pain throughout your youth, or dealing with people's punishments. So there are so many things that we learned from our contributors today. And again, thank you for joining us on this episode.
A very meaningful and reflective episode today.
Yes.
And we hope we were able to share those learnings with you guys. Thank you.
Magpapasalamat
Thank you,
muna
Kamuna.
tayo sa ating sponsor for today. Hulaan nyo. Kasi nandun siya. Work Able, thank you so much for allowing us to use your space today. It's so beautiful.
Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Thank you very much.